Hi, my name's Mike, and I was the lead animator for our most recent legend, Reno, and this is a behind the scenes look on his creation. So, the concept of Reno, or I guess like the initial idea of where he came from, kind of spawned from a couple of different things. During the development of a couple of past legends, we had considered having a character that has extra arms. Like, I think at one point we were considering having Vector have four arms that come out like as robots could do, but we ended up passing on that. And then I think at one point even Magyar had a concept where they had extra arms, but we ended up passing on that as well for kind of a different flavor for both of those characters. So when it came to make the next legend, we were like, okay, surely this time we can make the extra arms work, right? And that sort of combined with some really cool concept art that Rachel, one of our illustrators, put out, sort of kind of sealed the deal for us. A lot of the times when we go into making a legend, we'll kind of have this big meeting and talk about, okay, what archetypes sound cool, what weapons sound cool, what do we do next, guys, you know? And a lot of times we'll kind of have a plan laid out. And then every now and then, Rachel will just show up with a cool drawing and everyone just points at it and goes, yeah, let's do that. I think that's how Mako started as well. Rachel just kind of showed up with a dope drawing and everyone was like, well, obviously we should just do that. And the same thing happened with Reno. So great job, illustration team. So some of the ideas that kind of influenced the SIG process is that we really wanted to nail the cool gunslinger westerny feel while simultaneously making it feel like it would make sense for a bug alien. There was kind of a lot of inspiration from like old western films, some more modern sci-fi films, sort of meshing those two concepts together to get the kind of quintessential solo gunslinger cool guy. That's kind of where those two things overlap, and that's sort of the feeling that we wanted to lean into as far as just like how moves look. But as far as how moves function, we definitely wanted to lean into the gunslinger feel. We already had some of that with Cassidy, but we wanted to combine that with things that only a bug alien could do, like having four arms that shoot four blasters all at the same time. Or Blaster's Downsick is a great example. He does this thing where he has one gun in his hand and he like fans the hammer with another arm, but then he has two extra arms that are just doing spinning tricks, and then on hit he shoots you with those two extra ones, all while flying. So we were really able to use every piece of him for that one. And similar concept with all of his other SIGs. We really wanted to utilize either the wings or the extra arms or both, or some kind of cool gadget for every SIG. And that's where a lot of the whip SIGs came from the orb kit, like neutral SIG and side SIG. And that also sort of tied into the westerny feel, having this kind of thing that you whip around, and those cool like whip crack sound effects. Those are really fun. So as far as which elements showed up during what process, like what became, or what showed up at the beginning and made it all the way through, and what things kind of showed up in the middle. So we knew as soon as we saw that dope Rachel drawing that it's going to be some kind of alien bug slinger guy, and it's going to have extra arms. Those were kind of the two set in stone totems, I guess you could say, from the get-go, that we kind of centered everything else around. I actually wanted to avoid wings because I feel like every character I'm lead animator on has wings. So every character somehow ends up having wings. Zariel has wings, Onyx has wings, Vector has wings. I don't know how this happens. So I was like, okay, this time, maybe no wings. But everyone else was like, why don't we give him wings? Wings are cool. So, well, here's another legend I was lead on that has wings. You're welcome. So yeah, wings ended up making it in kind of halfway through. And I think it was definitely for the benefit, because a cool thing about animating a character with wings, you don't have to worry about where the feet line up. You can just have them hover across the screen and it just looks right. Turns out it's pretty convenient. So the laser whip was more of a solution to a problem than a cool thing that we wanted to put in somewhere. We got to the point where I believe the side and neutral orb SIGs were the last SIGs for us to settle on. Those took a lot of iteration to feel right. We knew that we wanted to kind of give him some kind of cool gadget along with his orb and his blasters, or I guess in addition to his orb and his blasters, but we weren't super sure what it was yet. So we tried a bunch of different concepts. And the laser whip ended up being the most versatile and the coolest. And when you end up with a SIG that not only looks really cool, but is really good, then, I mean, that's all you need, right? So, neutral orb in particular was the one that took the longest to get right. That one went through a lot of iteration, and we kind of didn't really get that one right until the 11th hour. Steven, one of our effects animators, really made that one work. So our effects animators, Steven and Sarah, actually really pulled through for, well, all the moves, obviously, but also they were able to really solidify neutral orb, laser whip conceptually. They were able to make it look cool and telegraph well. That was one of the ones that took the longest to kind of get right, but they were able to kind of nail it. And I think a big reason why that move ended up turning out so great is because they were able to really pull through. There were definitely some things that were surprisingly challenging when it came to developing Reno. Turns out, if you double the amount of limbs on a character, it takes twice as long to animate them. Who would have thought? Another animation challenge I ran into while developing Reno was that because he's got all these extra arms, extra guns, extra laser whips, there's a certain amount of visual information that can be a little overwhelming, or it can make moves a little less clear. It can be a little hard to tell what's going on sometimes. So striking a balance between let's use all the extra arms as much as we can without muddying up the action was definitely an interesting challenge. So one thing I'm really happy about with Reno is that we were able to get wings that show up in SIGs that color swap and change with the Legend's skin. That was a concept we initially wanted to do for Onyx, but for a couple of both art and tech reasons, unfortunately wasn't able to happen. Largely because most of Onyx's rock wings are frame by frame animated, whereas Reno's bug wings, there's only maybe 2 or 3 animation frames in there that just get repeated a bunch. And those type of frames do have like a hard limit in regards to both tech and how many times an illustrator needs to draw them every time we make a skin for that character. So Reno was able to strike the right balance of both tech and art requirements to where we were able to enable color swapping wings and unique wings for each skin, which I'm really happy about. So in regards to adhering to physics and some realm of realism, animating Reno was a bit of a challenge because a lot of the times when I'm figuring out what feels right, what looks right for this move, I act it out. But as you may have noticed, I don't have 4 arms. So when I'm like, okay, I've got to fan the hammer for this move and also twirl some stuff, what makes sense physically? Like what part of my body leads that action? Sometimes you just gotta kind of wing it, you know? Haha, get it, wing it, because he's got wings. Sometimes you just kind of gotta wing it and go with your gut. But I always still try to kind of adhere to physics and having moves feel weighty and consequential. I think one thing I really like about how Down Orb turned out was when you jump on the orb to twirl around, when your hand makes contact with the orb like goes down a little bit to show that, okay, he's got some weight to him. And then there's this sort of moment where the anti-gravity of the orb and the gravity of the bug and the gravity of Reno kind of interact with each other a little bit. It's subtle, but it's kind of a fun little interaction to kind of show that these characters still have weight. They're not just made of helium. There is definitely some subtle animation stuff that you might not notice initially, but if you've got an eagle eye, you might be able to see, like, during the startup and cooldown of just about every SIG, you can actually see Reno fold and unfold his extra arms. That was an interesting process to get that working right. Basically, Reno is unique in that he has two types of torsos. He has a torso where his extra arms are crossed, and he has a torso that doesn't have the extra arms, so he can swap between them during the SIGs where he pulls out his extra arms. And it goes kind of quick, but if you've got a good eye, you can see him kind of put away his guns, fold his arms again. That was kind of tricky to get right, but the extra torso pieces we added for that definitely helped a lot. Reno was a super fun character to develop, and I really hope people enjoy playing it.